Okay, today's date is September 30th, 2019. My name is Daniel Bradfield. I'm the oral historian for the Orange County Regional History Center. That's the longest title on planet Earth, so Alexandra.
Alexandra Chichelong. I am one Orlando Oral History archivist.
And
Thomas Thorsbecken, illustrative journalist.
And today we are interviewing
Michael Irizarry-Pagan.
Okay, this interview is being conducted as a part of our effort to collect interviews with the keeper of the Heritage Arts Collective, and this interview is being conducted at Mr. Irizarry-Pagan's home in St. Cloud, Florida. So to start off, who's the oldest family relative that you've ever met?
My great-grandmother.
So what was she like?
She was, basically she's a Taíno Indian, native from the island of Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd met her a couple of times before she passed away. And she was basically a spiritualist for me, because she would foretell things for me. And she would always have little stuff for me to play with.
Would you want to share any of that stuff?
Well, she one time had mentioned how my life would be. How many times I would marry, the children I would have, the color cars I would drive.
Wow.
That I would be an artist, and I ended up by myself.
How much, so did she talk about, the family history, like Taíno life and stuff like that?
Not much, because in her times, the Spaniards were the real racists back then. And her being a Taíno Indian, well, she was looked down upon because the Spaniards didn't like intermixing with the Taíno Indians. It was a no-no.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would see them on the side. It was kind of a strange setup back then.
Yeah.
So she didn't talk much about the history back then of things went on, but...
So she was born before, like, American occupation of the island?
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Did she ever talk about, like, the early years or anything, like,
No.
when the Americans came, any of that stuff?
No.
Okay. And when did...
All of that was kind of like, a taboo type.
Gotcha.
They didn't want to talk about.
Okay.
Because in a lot of the Hispanic families, you have mixtures of people. Some of us are dark, some of us are mixed, and stuff like that. And like anywhere, the lighter you are, the better you are. So there were certain things you just didn't talk about.
So did she speak, was there like a Taíno language that she spoke natively, or did she speak Spanish?
She spoke Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about what did your parents do for a living?
I don't know what my father did for a living, because he abandoned us when I was about 3 or 4.
Okay.
My mom, she had a 6th grade education, and she did whatever she could to make ends meet for us. She remarried, I think I was about 10, and we ended up in New York, in the mid-Manhattan in the 90s. Lived there for a while.
So when and where were you born?
I was born, I believe they said I was born in Bellevue Hospital. And that's in Manhattan. That was back in 1953.
So how long did you live on? Did you ever live in Puerto Rico, or were you born and raised in New York?
No, I was born and raised in New York.
Okay.
I would visit my grandma and grandpa in Puerto Rico every so often.
And they never came over here?
They came once in a while to visit.
Okay, but they stayed on the island for their
Yeah,
lives?
and when my grandpa passed away, my grandma came here in Florida, because my mom was living here at that time. And she took care of her until she passed away.
Okay. So 1953. So growing up in New York, what did your family do I know you said your mom was working a lot. You know, what would you guys do, say, in like your spare time? Would you go to church? Anything like that?
In my spare time, play in the streets, visit museums, libraries, play basketball, a lot of sports,
Okay.
hang out with the neighborhood friends.
Gotcha. Did you have like a favorite museum that you liked to go into when you were a
All
kid?
of them. I used to go to the Metropolitan, to the Natural History, all of them.
Yeah, because it's like recommended. Or, I mean, it's like you don't have to pay to go into them, right?
Back then you didn't.
Yeah.
Back then it was considered a donation.
That's it. Yeah.
So you gave a nickel, a dime, a quarter, whatever,
Yeah.
you can go in.
Yeah.
And when the come here. When the neighborhood was bad and it was rough times,
Yeah.
they wouldn't look for you in the museum
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
because they were just in charge of running the neighborhood.
Okay.
The museum was the best place to go, or the library. And New York has a gigantic library. So,
Yeah. The New York Public Library is incredible. So, did you have like is that where you got your like early love of art?
Not really. When we were younger, there wasn't much for us to do. When my mom was working in a sewing factory back in the day,
Oh wow.
and there wasn't much for us to do in the house because there was nobody to really watch us. So it'd usually be a friend or my mom would have somebody come over to watch us. One of the things they would give us to occupy our time was crayons or pieces of clay and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, we just started making stuff.
Gotcha.
And the clay, we couldn't afford clay. The cheese, the bell cheese, they just come in little orange things.
Yeah.
We would take those off, and you could make little figurines out of that.
Huh.
So I used that to make stuff. My mom saw that I had the knack for playing with little stuff like that. So her thing with me was to get pencils and crayons and paper,
Mm-hmm.
do stuff like that.
So
But everybody in my family did art.
really.
Grandpa used to make furniture and crates and boxes for novelty things, and he also had a printing press, one of those manual printing presses,
Oh wow.
and he would do greeting cards for the neighborhood, and he would sell those. And he was a terrible person at writing, so he took up calligraphy on his own, and he was incredibly good at that. My older brother, Joey, he used to love to paint. So I would hang out and watch him paint all the time. And do pastels and all this other stuff. And one of my other younger brothers, tattoo artist.
Oh. It's
And
incredible.
the other younger one was I think he said he did the sketches for the cops,
Oh. Okay.
stuff like that. The other one, I don't know where he's at now, but he's also an artist. So everybody did it.
How many siblings did you have?
Oh, gee whiz. It's my older brother, older sister, younger brother, and two stepbrothers.
Oh, okay.
Every one of them painted, did some kind of art form.
Including your step siblings?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Well, my stepbrothers, they would raid my stuff
Okay.
because I would have all my stuff ready, and I was doing it for school and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I come back and they're at the tables, they're at the drafting tables, just carrying on. So I would I would help them to a certain extent, so they'd leave me alone. They got better than me.
So growing up when you were doing that stuff, did you have like a favorite subject to try and do? You know, like when you were doing early art stuff?
No, the thing was, I would run into artists because we used to hang out in Soho. And sometimes in the upper, what was it, on 110, 113th Street on Columbus Avenue, there used to be tenements. And I ran into several artists there because I used to do a lot of deliveries for supermarkets and stuff like that to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have me come in and I'd tell them I like art and they would show me what they're doing. And so I had a little bit of everything. And then I would go to the museums and I would just be fascinated with all the art that they did. And I never thought that I would do it. It wasn't until I got into college I took an art appreciation course. And one of the assignments was to go to the Museum of Art, pick a painting, and copy it.
Interesting.
And I had nothing I had no paints or nothing. So I took crayons, pencils, whatever I had, and I copied, I'll never forget, I copied Aristotle contemplating the bust of Homer.
That's really cool to do in crayon.
I did that in crayon and pencil and magic mark and everything. And I turned it in. And the teacher sends it back with an A+, and with a little note on the bottom of it says, you should take up art. So I took that as a hint, and I took up art.
So how old were you when you started college? Did you do it straight out of high school?
Straight out of high school, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, like you said, you never thought that you would do art as like a career. At that time, do you remember, did you have a career that you were thinking about doing when you got out of school?
No, because I didn't think I'd live that long in my neighborhood. In my neighborhood, if you were 26, you were considered an old man. So I'm 17 going on 18 and just barely making it through the neighborhood because there was a lot of gangs, there was a lot of violence. And that's when you had the Vietnam War going on. And there was a lot of drugs, a lot of heroin, all that stuff. So people were dying left and right. And in each neighborhood that you go through, if you didn't know somebody, you weren't going through there.
So how did you survive through it?
I don't know. I did the best I could. I tried to make friends and I don't know. You earn respect by not taking things for granted and not being abused. And plus, I was one of the quiet ones. I wouldn't start arguments or fights or anything. I was always quiet and watch everything that goes on. And the thing in the neighborhood was that if you're quiet and you watch, and maybe he's the one to look out for. That's what an old man told me, so I followed his advice. Because we used to have the bums, and they would be drinking wine and all that stuff, and we would go to the construction sites where they're doing the high rises and everything, and I would collect bottles. Because back then a beer bottle was 7 cents. You turn it in.
Okay.
The quart bottles of soda were 5 cents and 2 cents and 7 cents. I gather all that up, and if they needed a little cash, I would give them some money in order for them to look out for me. So if something was going on that I need to know, the bum would take care of it, and I'd take care of him.
Yeah. So during that time, did you live like in a rent-controlled apartment? Where did you guys live at the time?
Which time?
Well, I mean, throughout your like childhood and like that neighborhood, you guys like move around a lot, or?
Yeah, we moved around quite a bit. I remember living in Alphabet City, which is Lower East Side of Manhattan. I lived in Delancey, Suffolk streets. I lived in the Jacob Reese Projects, Lower East Side. I lived mid-Manhattan. Two different places in mid-Manhattan, and the Bronx, Queens.
Did you have a favorite place?
All of it.
Okay.
Yeah, all of it. I used to just love traveling and walking around with my brother. We'd go walk for hours just to see something new, to get out of the neighborhood.
Yeah. So you graduated from high school. Had your brothers graduated from high school before you?
My 2 stepbrothers, older ones, well, that makes 2 more. On my stepfather's side, he had two sons. They were in high school. They ended up in Vietnam.
Okay.
My older brother, he graduated. He ended up in Vietnam. And when I went to sign up, they said, well, we got 3 of them, so we don't need you.
Oh.
And you're college bound, so. Because one of my professors, not professor, but teacher in high school said that if you joined the program that they had back then called a college bound program, they wouldn't take you because you were moving on and progressing. If you was one of the knuckleheads that we used to call the super seniors who didn't want to do anything and just stay in school or hang out in the streets, they picked them up and drafted them. So when I went to the draft board, I was ready to go. They said, stay here. So I went to college.
Did your stepbrothers and your brothers survive the war? They come back?
Yeah, they all came back.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the neighborhood didn't, though. All my friends were just about gone. And the ones that came back were in pieces. Some of them were just out of it.
Do you think that's why you wanted to go into psychiatric stuff when you joined the
No,
Army?
not really. When I was in grade school, because of all the trauma that I went through as a kid, and because of the neighborhood, they thought that there was something wrong with me because I was so quiet. And so they had me see a counselor or a shrink.
Mm-hmm.
And the shrink would say, well, what do you want to do? And nothing. I wouldn't talk to them. So they gave me pen and pencil and paper. So I would draw. And they said, oh, he's just introverted. He likes to draw. And I'd been drawing ever since.
So why did you decide to join the Army?
Oh, well, I was married, didn't work. I said I got tired of living in New York with the crowds and all the insanity. So I joined the military.
How old were you when you signed up?
I think 26, 26, something, no, 29, I think it was.
29. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So what was the Army like when you joined it at the time? Like, what was basic training like? You know, how did you adapt?
Basic training was fun.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun. It was all silly. It was just exercising and learning new stuff. And my drill sergeant said, once you finish your basic training, it's going to be boring.
Was he right?
He was right, because you get a regular job, you got to show up, and the military is not like, people think that it's a wonderful thing. It's a pain in the butt. You walk into your job and your shirt's not pressed exactly and perfectly right, you get in trouble. And trouble for the military is they take money. You got money, you're not going to go nowhere or do anything. You don't shine your shoes, you don't press your pants, you don't cut your hair right. They come and measure your mustache, all kind of silliness. And then you have all that free time. Because you work 9 to 5, or whatever shift you're working, the rest of the time is your own. And the only accountability you have is when they have a roll call or you got to come back. So everybody would go crazy. Wherever you're at, there was always something to do.
So did you, just going back a little bit, when you mentioned going to college, did you graduate? Did you start working somewhere? What were you doing in like your earlier 20s?
When I was in college, I was married at the time. I had a daughter. She was like one or two years old. And I was playing basketball for the Queens College, City University, and taking up art classes. And that's when they had what's her name? The one who played Barbarella. Jane Fonda came to speak to us, and everybody's carrying on, and all the Vietnam War and all this other stuff. And I thought about what it would be like to go there. But other than that, I just spent time in college, and I never graduated. I think I did 3 years, and by that time I was tired of New York and tired of the marriage that wasn't working. So I just joined the military.
And were you working, or are you just playing basketball?
I worked let me see, gee whiz. I worked all the time because I would get money from the school, because we had financial aid. We had work study, so that was another job. I would work part-time jobs when I got back home. And on the weekends, a couple of the guys that would hang out in the neighborhood, we would go to the old buildings and ask the people, because it was in the neighborhood, it was up by the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, in Pelham Parkway area. And it's a very old neighborhood, and the people were very old, and they couldn't clean out their places. So we would clean out the places for them and get paid. And when we do that, they would say, well, if you want this stuff, you can have it. So they would give us antique furniture.
Wow.
So we'd strip it and polish it up, and we'd sell it again. So we do that too.
It's like a lot of side gigs.
A lot of side gigs, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of side gigs. That's how you learn a lot of the stuff about the art too. because a lot of picture frames were given to me. And if I didn't know how to do something, somebody knew how to do it. They would tell me or show me. Ended up with a lot of stuff. Still got a lot of stuff.
So, how long did you play? You played basketball for 3 years in college. Did you keep playing
I played basketball since I can remember, because that was the only thing we had in the neighborhood, and all you needed was a hoop and a stupid little ball. And I played for the high school, Louis D. Brandeis High School. I played for them, but I had a back injury. This guy had undercut me when I was going for a dunk, so my spine went like that. And so I was considered crippled, just about. They said 1/64th of an inch more and I wouldn't be able to walk. And so, of course, I didn't pay attention to that. When I got to college, I started playing basketball again. When I got into the military, I played basketball there too. And I wasn't even supposed to go in the military because I had a bad back.
So does your back injury like flare up sometimes? Or
Yeah,
do you get,
I'm disabled now,
Oh, okay.
according to the military.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I don't take the pills. Oh,
So, is your back okay now?
No.
Or, oh, no. Okay.
no, I'm in constant pain.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So, yeah.
You learn to live with it. As long as I feel pain, I'm not dead.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That's one way to look at it, I guess.
And if you're overexerting, well, you get reminded real quick.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, growing up in the neighborhood, or I know you moved around a lot, was it mostly Hispanic, the areas that you moved to, or was a lot of like mixed race, like community stuff?
Some of the neighborhoods were mixed. When I moved to the Bronx, when I was married, it was Jewish and Irish and Italian. And I lived in Manhattan. It was Hispanic, Black, Cuban, Dominican. The junior high school I went to, Joan of Arc, was 98% Black. The rest were Hispanic and 1% white. Louis D. Brandeis High School, again, was mostly Hispanic and Black. That's what the neighborhood was.
How did you feel like treated in New York as like a Puerto Rican man growing up? Like, was there like a...
It was rough. They
Yeah.
didn't like us at all. I was okay. You know, people always talk about racism, but if you live with it and you live amongst it, you know how to deal with it. And you can see it right away.
How do you kind of see it?
Just got to talk to somebody and you see
okay.
it.
Okay.
The way they look at you, the way they treat you. There were some neighborhoods I would walk through, and there'd be a white neighborhood. I won't mention the ethnicity, but you walk through it and they spit in front of you. I mean,
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty clear
Okay.
sign. Yeah, all right.
Pretty
Okay,
clear
yeah.
sign, okay.
You know that.
You know, I think so. I think so.
Oh, listen,
I feel like I'd be able to pick up on that. I feel like I noticed that.
Here in Mims,
Oh.
I lived in Titusville,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to Mims, and there was a feed store, and I went to pick up what do you call it? Stuff that you give dogs, injections and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I used to do that too.
Like medicine.
Yeah, I used to raise miniature poodles.
Oh, okay.
And going in there, the man tells me outside, he was a black man, he says, you better go around back. I said, wait, this is 1980 something. He said, you better go around back. You're not allowed in this way. So it's still here to this day.
I heard a story when I was growing up when I was in college. I had a friend who used to travel a lot for college football games. And Ole Miss was desegregated by the Army Airborne came down and made
Yeah, I
sure that
remember that.
Yeah. And he told me that there's a barbecue restaurant in Oxford that has a sign that says, "We have never integrated," and they have
Yeah.
never served a black person in that restaurant ever.
I got out of the military in '86, and I went to visit a friend of mine in Huntsville, Alabama. Don't ask me why, but she said come. She said come, so I came. And they had a sign in this little small town outside of Huntsville, Alabama, and the sign said, "Nigger, don't let the sun set on your ass here."
Wow.
So I spent maybe 6 months there. Yeah, but I also when I there I did nail art.
Never heard of that. No.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, painting on like the top of a nail.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I was like fingernails.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, if it pays me, I'll do it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do with art. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even won in a competition, second place, a big old trophy. Painting nails.
Did you have any of those problems in the Army? Because I know that there's a lot of places there's a lot of Southern Army bases.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh yeah. Big time racism in the military, big time. There's certain areas you'd hang out after work and you wouldn't go. And even though you're all together in one spot, I never trusted any of them if we were in a situation. No, not at all. Now when they tell you if you're in front of me and you don't look like me, I'll shoot you, so. I don't think you'll trust them.
No, I don't think so.
That was pretty rough.
Sounds like it. So, when you were in the Army, how did you get into psychiatric work?
Well, before you get taken in, they give you an exam, an entrance exam.
Yeah.
And in the entrance exam, depending on the scores that you get, they will recommend where you should go, what field.
Mm-hmm.
I scored highest in administration. But I didn't want to be stuck in an office building somewhere, or maybe stuck inside of a mountain somewhere.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what do you have medical? They said, well, combat medic. I said, I don't want to be out there in the field getting shot.
Yeah.
I said, what do you got in the hospitals? They said, well, one of them that we have, and they never seem to go to the field, is psychiatric technicians. I said, I'll take it. So I took the test, took the exam, got in.
So, where was your first? What was the training for that specific MOS?
For that MOS, it was a lot of book learning, and you'd have these orientation classes where they teach you all the signs to look for, how to handle situations with psychiatric patients. They'd have mock demonstrations of people that were crazy. They would take you to psychiatric centers and show you the people that were there and how to deal with them. That was the hands-on part of it. And then you had to understand the giving of the medications and the side effects and everything. And then you get this gigantic exam at the end.
Sounds like a pretty extensive training.
It was pretty extensive, yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny part about it is that some of the people that went through that program ended up being committed. And one of my instructors said, the best place to hide is within it.
Interesting.
And I put that in my paintings.
So you, with that work, you used to go to institutions, I guess.
Right.
So what were they like at the time?
Yeah, pretty bad. Because we used to have what they called the Thorazine shuffle.
Yep, heard of this.
That medication made you like a zombie.
Yeah.
And it was given to everybody who they thought was uncontrollable.
So everybody.
So just about everybody got a dosage of that. And treating that was horrible.
Because it also has permanent side effects, right?
Sometimes,
So
yeah.
like if it's used for a prolonged period of time,
Right,
they
right.
can become permanent.
It damages the brain big time. Yeah. A lot of the stuff they did then was horrific. I mean, to go to work at the psychiatric center in Fort Riley, Kansas, for those who are out there, is this big gigantic steel door to the unit. You give one of the big old keys. They look like those keys up there. Where are they? Oh, gee whiz. Like those keys.
Yeah.
You clank yourself to get in,
It's like prison.
and then you clank it shut. And it's made that way so these guys won't run through the door.
Yeah.
And we had a guy one time that he wasn't crazy. He just got drunk one time and just got out of control. So they said, well, we're going to take him in. And this guy was humongous. He picked up a couch and ran to the door to knock it open.
My God.
And our job was to tackle him, put him in restraints so they can give him a shot. And that's mostly what the job was.
So just dealing with like drunk soldiers.
Well, some of them were insane. We met everybody from Superman to Mickey Mouse to Jesus Christ, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them weren't crazy, but if you say something wrong, there could be a reason to be committed, which was sad to me because we had a lieutenant who was a Puerto Rican, and they were at a party. He got drunk, and he said, well, they should shoot the president.
Well, there you go.
He got admitted. And this guy, I'm sitting there talking to him, he could play the piano, he could play all instruments, he was college educated, an incredible person. But because he said that, you're crazy, we kick you out.
So you were stationed in Kansas.
Kansas.
How long were you?
Fort Riley, Kansas.
How long were you at Fort Riley?
2 years.
Did you like Kansas?
No.
Yeah, okay. Oh, okay, that continues the streak. I've never met anybody who liked living in Kansas. Okay.
There's nothing in Kansas. Well, you're not in Kansas.
Oh.
You're out there, way out there in the middle of nowhere. The closest city to you are two little cities. Ogden. It leads into Kansas. I mean, leads into Fort Riley, Kansas. Now, Ogden, coming off the freeway, you're coming down 70 miles an hour. You better hit 30 and 25 by the time you hit the city line. Because the mayor, the post office, a general, the sheriff, I forgot what other title he had, was all one person.
Okay.
And it was just, as soon as you went through there, and if you made one mistake, they got you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go through Ogden at 25 miles an hour and be in 5 minutes, you'll be out of the town.
Okay.
On the other side of Fort Riley was Junction City, given the name because it was a train junction. That's where the train depot used to be. And that was where all the GIs and everybody else lived off base. And that was, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Other than that, there was nothing out there. So out there, everybody got drunk, got high, did all kind of crazies, ended up going to Fort Leavenworth for the jail, ended up on a psychiatric unit, getting kicked out, everything. It was just insane. It's like being back in the neighborhood.
It sounds like.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So what was your kind of like day-to-day work at the hospital when you were there?
Well, it was just you get in and you get your reports and you get your assessment of who's who, what's what, and what they need, and then you stand out there and watch them. And you watch for certain behaviors, or certain triggers, and you keep an eye on certain individuals because some individuals might want to commit suicide. So you had to make sure all their things were in proper order, and you had to inspect everything. So you had like a 15-minute watch all the time, going through, back and forth.
So how long, you said you were in Kansas for 2 years. What was your next deployment?
The next deployment, let me see, what was it? Korea. I went to Korea for 15 months.
So that was was that your first time outside of the United States?
Right.
So what was it like in Korea at the time?
Like going to Mars. It was a very strange place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people, sad to say, the people that lived around the base were there mainly to make money off the GIs. A lot of it was prostitution and, what was the other one? What do they call it? Where they'd be selling black market stuff.
Oh, okay.
Everybody was into it, from the general all the way down. And so it was a constant watch of your back all the time. If you stayed on base, it was boring because there was nothing to do. And they had clubs everywhere in the small little town called Itaewon-dan. In that little town, you had a cowboy club, soul club, any kind of club you can think of. If you pay, you can play there. It was insane. It was insane.
Did you ever go to any other part of Korea? Or?
Yeah. I met a young lady in one of the bars, and she was a college student. And she said, "This is not the real Korea. You should see the real Korea." So she took me to all these small little places, these little towns away from the city, and it was beautiful. It was incredible. The culture they have and the way they treat each other and the crafts, and it was just beautiful, completely. But the closer you get to the cities, it was horrible.
So, during that time when you were in the Army, were you still doing art?
Yeah, yeah. When I got to Fort Sam Houston, because I had extra money now, I could buy art supplies. So I entered a couple of contests that had on base. And I won a couple of awards, and I said, well, this is what I should do. I can get all the supplies I want. I got my own place. Just keep doing it. When I went to Korea, I met artists there, and the incredible thing that they could do is you give them an image, and they can duplicate it exactly.
Wow.
If you have a photograph, he takes the photograph, and you couldn't tell which is a photograph or the drawing, just to make $1. And so I would do that with them. They would show me little things like that.
That's interesting. So, what was your work like in Korea? Because I know you meant, was it the same type of like military hospital in Korea?
Yeah, military hospital, yeah.
Okay.
Because once you get your MOS, your specialty,
Yeah,
they'll send you wherever they need that specialty.
Okay.
And so they sent me there, and from there they sent me back to, Hawaii. And then from Hawaii, they want to send me back to Korea. And I said, I'm done with this, because they started that, let's go to war business.
Because that would have been in '86.
And they're starting to talk about, Panama and all those other crazy places. I was in Fort St. Houston when they had that thing that happened, I forgot the name of that island, where they had the students from a university that was studying to be medical profession.
Okay.
And I think Reagan was in office then. And
I guess that would have been Panama.
No, it wasn't Panama. It was a little island.
Oh yeah.
I forgot the name of it.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember though.
Anyway, they sent the Marines there, they sent the Army there, they sent the Air Force and the Navy, and everybody was competing to see who would go there and take care of it the best. My job being in psychiatric center was when these guys came back butchered up, because some of them shot each other by mistake or whatever. I would have to take care of them before they get discharged. And people from Korea would come to Fort Sam Houston, because it's a big medical center, and we'd take care of them too.
So when you were in Korea, what do you think was like a common like mental disorder that you would see people come in for? Because you said in Kansas it was a lot of people who were, like crazy, but there was also people who were like drunk on base.
You had people that thought they were back in Vietnam. You have that problem, and they go out there and actually shoot people or kill people, stuff like that. And we'd have those on the unit. You'd have people who skim through the system until they get to an isolated place like the DMZ or these little outposts, and it comes out. We had to deal with those. Then you get the ones who are addicted to some kind of substance. We get those. And they come to the psychiatric center before they get kicked out.
So it sounds like a stressful, honestly, really depressing job.
Yes, it was.
How did you deal with it?
Have fun. You laugh about it, joke about it, and always say, when you see that happen to them, say, well, thank God I'm not him.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch your back, and you watch everybody around you real carefully. But I learned that in the streets, so. And if you got a problem, admit it. Get the help.
So you were in for 7 years, and then after Korea, you went to Hawaii. What was Hawaii like?
That was another crazy place. Hawaii is beautiful, but they really don't want you there. You're like an outsider. They call them the Howleys, because you're not a native, and you're there just to benefit from them. And so if you're not nice to them, or treat them with respect, because most of the military people, I got rank, I can do whatever I want, I can say whatever I want. You can't do that with certain people. And on the islands, you can't do that.
Well, especially, if they're resentful of the U.S. being there,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they're definitely not happy about you being in the military and there.
Yeah, because you got what they want.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a lot of people in the military, you know, it's sad to say that they're very abusive people because they got power. They feel entitled because I'm a GI.
So after Hawaii, you got out,
Right.
and you left because you said you felt like they were going to
Time
go to
was
war
up.
somewhere.
Time was
Yeah.
up. That was it.
So where did you move after?
Oh, gee whiz. From there, I went to Texas. From Texas, I went to Maryland. From Maryland, I came to Florida. From Florida, I went to California. California, back to Texas. From Texas to Maryland again. Then back to California. Then back to Florida.
Why the 3-state? It seems like you moved from like a 3-state triangle for like 20 years.
California was wonderful because the arts.
That's true.
They have an incredible way of dealing with artists. Some cities, and some small, like Ventura, Pomona, places like that, they thrive on art. And they're respected. And I don't care what it is, they want you as an artist. And being in California, I had so many shows everywhere. There was no problem. When I came to Florida, up at the northern part, the Tallahassee area, it was the same thing. It was just growing, and it was incredible opportunity of art all the time. In Maryland, not so much. New York City, it's who you knew, because there was millions and millions of artists up there. Here, is that right? Here is not that many, because here, as the years go on, the gallery system changed. Because used to be in the olden days, if you was an artist and they liked your work and they believed they could sell it, you were in. Now you don't have to do that. Now you pay the gallery to be in the gallery. So you're paying their rent and a commission, and maybe you'll have a show. And then you'll be on the wall with 15,000 other artists who are paying the rent. That's what they do now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get the good artists to be seen. It's like what Angel, these guys are doing is incredible. Or Marilyn over here at the Osceola Center for the Arts, it's incredible.
So when you first moved to Florida, you moved to Tallahassee, you said, right?
Right.
So why did you pick Florida?
I don't know. Sunshine State? I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
No,
Well, you picked mostly like warmer states. I mean, California.
I lived in New York 26 years.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't deal with the snow and the crowds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I moved, when I was in Texas, you get all this crazy rainy weather where in Dallas you would flood out.
Yeah.
And then you get these gigantic thunderstorms. In Kansas, you can watch the tornadoes come at you. A lot of other places I've been to, like Arizona, Nevada, I didn't stay there long at all because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Reno was the same thing. In California, it was a gigantic state. And everywhere you go, there's always a place to show art, do music, some kind of cultural something or other. It's always great up there.
So during that time, what are you doing, like for, just work or?
Anything I can do. I was apartment manager. I was a handyman. I did slight construction. I did house renovations where they had the turnovers. You come in, you do the repairs, you fix it up, you paint it up, and the person would sell it, you get paid for that. In the farming areas, you can install posts for horses and cattle and stuff like that. And if the people aren't there, they need somebody to watch the home, you do that too. There was always money. And if you needed a steady job, well, you work security. I worked security too. And I worked on some of the bases.
Oh, just doing other kind of like.
Yeah, you work on the base and they need repairs here, or somebody got to clean out a certain warehouse. Oh, you get paid for it. We'll go out in a minute.
I can pause it if you want to take them out.
Okay.
Not really no big deal. Yeah, sure. Pause it.
That's what he's complaining about.
Gotcha. Okay. No big deal.
He'll start crying.
Break. Oh yeah.
Now he's asleep.
It's actually really cute how, and it makes sense because he's basically just planted his head in between the two pillows.
Yeah.
It's just chilling, just completely out of it.
That's when I know he's okay.
Yeah.
It's over now.
Yeah, exactly.
Until he wants something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's always how they are, you know. Like, it's in between naps is when they really need something.
He got us well trained.
They really do. So you were talking off camera about how you do art therapy.
Right.
You got into art therapy in college.
I took a couple of courses.
Okay.
I never thought I would do it
Okay.
because I didn't think there would be money in it.
True. Yeah.
Now, when I got married the second time to my wife in California, she was a psychologist. I met her working at a psychiatric center. And it was a taboo for regular workers to be with doctors or psychiatrists because you're not supposed to do that. But we did it anyway.
So at the time you were just like an orderly kind of thing?
It wouldn't call it orderly. What did they call it?
Okay.
They had a good name for it, like a healthcare assistant or something.
Oh, okay.
Some funny name. But orderly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But also, I mean, you talk about in the Army, you were administering meds, so that's a little
Right.
bit more than like an orderly, I think.
Yeah, well, in the military, that was the funny thing, because you can do all of that stuff when you get out. You got to get a degree to do it.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that.
I mean, I can... The lady next door had almost a heart attack. I saved her life because I told him I'm a medic. The guy showed up in emergency and said, who did this? They said, he did it. Is he certified or anything? No. How do you know this to do this? Hey, I was a combat medic. And he shut up and left. But to get a job at the hospital, I got to have all this paperwork showing that I can do it.
So in the hospitals, you would do that work, and then what kind of like art therapy stuff would you do with? Because also, I mean, I know you can't bring some materials in because they're sharp or might hurt
No,
themselves.
you could.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to work at halfway houses with my ex-wife, and she would do therapy with them, and I would go in, and we have like a little session of how they feel about certain things, and how they would show that in colors or the drawings or the paintings or the little sculptures. And my job was to get them motivated to do that. And by them doing that, they were able to express how they felt or what they think. And you could see it in artwork. And when I started seeing that kind of stuff, I said, well, I need to do artwork like that. But when you look at something, you actually feel it instead of saying, well, it's a pretty picture. I want people to go up front and go like, oh my God, or what the hell's going on? That makes sense to me, because I did it with them.
Yeah. So, roughly how long did you do, art therapy and stuff like that?
6 years.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do it when you got to Florida at all?
No.
Okay.
You gotta have a degree.
Okay.
You gotta be certified.
Yeah.
You gotta have college.
Did you ever think about going back to college and get that stuff?
No.
Yeah.
College, to me, was like high school. They give you things that don't really help you, because what really helps you is doing it practical. Get out there and doing it. Hands-on helps you. Because they would give me books in the military how to stitch people up. You got to do it. How to start IVs. You have to do it. And going back to school, when I first went to college, tuition was $69 a semester. Now you're talking like $10,000.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can't afford that.
So, when did you first move to Florida? Like roughly the year?
First time? I think in the early 80s. It's twice. I came down here one time because my mom moved down and she left New York. So I came down with her, but then I went to the military. And after the military, came back to Florida, up in Tallahassee, back in 1989, I think it was. And I stayed there till 94. Then went to California. Then that's when I started being a ping pong back and forth.
So when your mom moved down here, where did she move to?
She lived off on Narcoossee Road.
Oh, okay, so right in this area.
Yeah. They had 5 acres out there. It's wonderful.
What was Narcoossee? What did you think of Central Florida when you first moved down here?
Not much of anything. Because when I first came down there, I was living up in the Orlando area, hustling to get a job, and I didn't think of anything but, making money to eat. So I did whatever I could. Once I got comfortable, then I started looking into the arts. And it was up further north that they did all the arts. So I moved up there.
What did you start doing when you moved down here? You said you were hustling for a job.
Well, I would work labor ready or whatever.
What's labor ready?
If you're unemployed and you need money, you go to a place called Labor Ready. I have different names for it now. And they would have job openings for the day or for the week or for the month. And they'd pay you a certain fee, cash. And they'd keep the other part of the fee. And then they send you to a job site.
So it's kind of like a staffing agency.
Right, like a staffing agency, yeah. And through that, I did construction, I did all kind of weird stuff. But it paid, so.
Well, yeah.
Got a car. Did art.
So Tallahassee, you lived until '94.
Right.
Then you moved to California. You were in California for,
I think 8 years, maybe more.
So why did you decide to move back to Florida after California? That triangle again.
A whole lot of stuff in between there, but one of the reasons I was with my love, and she ended up with cancer. And so we moved around trying to find the right place for treatment. And she wanted to come to Florida, or was it Georgia? It was Georgia first, because it was closer to where Mom lives. And we were getting her treatment up there. And then the place that I was living, the lady who owned it kept raising the rent like this. Every time the lease was up, the rent went up. And the treatment they were giving her wasn't helping her. So I convinced her into getting into the VA to get help. And then I told her that there's a place down here, because my mom was down here. And her husband had passed away and she had nobody. So I said, we can come down here, I can help my mom, and we can put you in the VA in Orlando to get treatment. So we came down here.
So she got it because you were a vet, right? Or
She was a vet too.
Oh, she was a vet too. Oh, okay.
She was a dental hygienist.
And then she became a psychiatrist?
No, this is after my divorce.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to tell you, but it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
You got 3 or 4 days, maybe.
Well, you can talk about whatever you want to. I'd love to listen to it. But so
yeah,
what?
Because you're into psychiatry. I know you guys.
No, to me, the interesting thing is why people decide to do the things that they do. That's the reason I like this. So that's the thing.
With art, to me, it's a catharsis. Everything that I went through in my life from childhood until now, I can describe in my paintings.
Okay.
Everything that I feel about certain situations, I can put into a painting, and I get it out of me. And if somebody can walk up to the painting and see it, then I think it's a good thing. Now, they may not like it, they may not love it, they may not want it, because I've had many people look at my paintings and say, well, can you do one that matches the color of my couch? I said, yeah, you're going to pay me this much then.
Yeah, if you want me to make garbage that fits your color scheme, then yeah, you're going to have to pay me for garbage that matches your color scheme.
And all my life of painting, my teachers weren't the professors in the college and stuff like that. They were artists. They're the ones that would paint on the street corners to make money. They're the ones that were struggling to make money. I worked at the Metropolitan Museum in what was that section? I forgot the name of that section. Where we do the medieval armor. I would shine and polish the armor. And in my spare time, I'd go into the library, which had gigantic catacombs of all kind of books. And you see all the famous artists. And I did that as a work study for college. It's the best place to be, museums.
So when you moved down here, you moved in with your mom.
No, no. My mom was living in this place.
Well, living in this place.
I was living next door.
Oh, okay.
In this house?
Yeah, my mom lived in this house.
In this house?
Oh, okay.
And you live there?
And I lived in the little teeny one next door.
Okay. So, what did you think of the area when you moved down here again? Okay.
There's nothing in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
You go downtown and you got, if anybody's listening, you have 15 to 20 thrift stores. 2 restaurants that have been there forever. It's Spaghetti House and some other place.
Are they at least good?
Liquor stores, a couple of barbershops. That's it. Everything closes around 6 or 7. Done. It's dead. But it is so quiet and peaceful.
It's got to be nice too, living this close to the lake too. Yeah.
A lot of strange people in St. Cloud.
Well, it's also, I mean, do you know anything about the history of St. Cloud?
Yeah, Soldier City, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's cool. It's cool, but it's very weird.
The hotel there that they're fixing up, I used to live in there.
Really?
Yeah, on the 3rd floor.
Huh.
I stayed there for a while. Now they're remodeling it. The stairwells are like this. No elevator.
Old buildings are weird like that.
Yeah, but it was beautiful though. It was nice. The people were nice. And if you stayed out past 8 o'clock, everything was locked up. You had to ring the bell and make sure somebody in the back office would wake up and come get you, open the door for you.
So, I mean, now, you know, why do you stay here? What do you like about living here?
It's just quiet.
Okay.
There's really not much happening, but now it's starting. Things are starting to happen. When I first got here, there wasn't anywhere to show art. Then Osceola Center for the Arts, when Maryland, I forgot it. Oh, don't get mad, Maryland, came down here from Chicago to run the Osceola Center for the Arts. Things started happening. Things started opening up. I used to show at City Hall here, but they closed that down because they didn't have enough staff to take care of it. I showed at City Hall in Kissimmee, but they would always mess up, so I stopped showing there.
What would they do?
I had an exhibit on the 2nd floor. I walk in to look at it, and it's somebody else's name and their picture. And said, this is what the work is about. I'm saying, wait a minute, that's not me. And the titles were all wrong.
Wow.
When I went to complain, they said, oh, there it is. I said, no, take my stuff off, get out of here. So I fought with them for like a couple of years, and I said, I'm not going to show that no more. But now they changed over. Now there's somebody else running it. So maybe. But then again, my stuff is hard to show at City Hall.
Yeah, it seems like you got a lot of, like, well, I mean, you got a couple political pieces, and then you've also got like some, like, heavily religious stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
I'll open up my own gallery one day. I tried to do it here in St. Cloud, but the rent went like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because it seems like a lot of people are moving down here too.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty popular. Like, we got a coworker who moved down, who lives out here. More and more people seem like.
Yeah, and the prices are going up like crazy.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, like, Orlando's basically unaffordable.
Yeah,
if I didn't have like a locked-in mortgage rate, I couldn't live there.
Yeah, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
It's like being in New York again. But it's really quiet, and the neighbors are nice. Everybody's friendly. Now they are. My mom's still here, so.
Oh, that's nice. What, so, are you, I know you're part of the, like, arts collective. Is there any other, like Puerto Rican community stuff that you do?
I try to sign up for a lot of them, but they all have different standards of what they like and what they want to show and how many people can be in it, and then they vote on it. And they determine whether you're in or not.
So how did you get connected with the collective?
They saw my work, and they said they were interested.
Where were you showing it at the time?
At at
Osceola.
Center for the Arts. A couple of them saw the work and they contacted me. They said they were interested, they liked my work. Would I be willing to join the group? But they were going through some turmoil and changing over the staff and everything. So I had to wait. And so when he opened up this barbershop up there and had like a barbershop and a gallery, he asked to have a couple of pieces up there. And the reaction he got, he said it was very good. And a lot of the artists were interested. They liked my work. And I said, well, okay, I'll join up.
So, when did you join? 2017, 2016?
17, I think.
17? And when did you move back down here?
I was here in 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
So, do you have any family that still lives in Puerto Rico, or they all live in New York?
Well, with my family, it's an unusual story. I don't know what most of them are.
Okay.
I don't know who my father is, or anybody on that side. My grandpa died, my uncles are dead, grandma's dead, mom's 85, and the rest of the family, I don't know what they are.
Where do your siblings live?
My daughter lives up in New York City, the Bronx. She's got 3 little kids. They're in my paintings. If you see the paintings, you'll understand why.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, maybe. Would you like to talk about any of your paintings?
Ask away.
Do you have any favorite one?
All of them.
I mean, I can already sense that there is a story behind every single one. But is there anyone up here that maybe you would like to share with us?
Pick one.
Okay.
Pick one.
You said so.
I really like those two. The ones of the like structure. They look like abstract structures.
The churches?
Yeah.
Those are 2
Yeah.
churches, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about them?
Well, this one here, Iglesia, I think number 7. I'm not sure if that's the name. It was based on how the church, how the church system runs, basically. So what I put in it, are you going to look at it too?
Yeah.
Look,
Go ahead.
I was telling you before that a lot of the stuff I put in is very symbolic. I also put 2 faces like I did before, which is the god Janus, that Latin, that welcomes you coming and going. So I put 2 faces, one over here and one over here. And actually they got their mouths wide open like they're screaming about the church. Now the church, here's the book that goes in the church. And it has a lock on it. Because that's how they believe it. It's their word and that's it, period. And I put little arrows leading nowhere. Because you got to have faith. And the best way that they can get you is to make you believe in something. So they can take you anywhere. But in most of them, there's a lot of entrances that lead nowhere. You have to find that yourself. So it's also a game, but I put a game of dice. Dominoes. Because it's a game. Why you got to go to church and pay money to be saved? And then also there's a lot of numbers that I keep in mind all the time. Like there's 3 dots, which symbolize Father, Son, Holy Ghost, beginning, middle, and end. Father, Son, Father, Mother, and Child. And then the whole structure is kind of in motion all the time.
You alright? Oh, it fell off. Okay.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Okay, that's fine.
It's not working?
No,
It
just
is
came
working
off.
and just came off.
Do, usually a statement on the hypocrisy of it. It's always in motion, it's always in flux. It's always on the belief of the believer. that they can get away with it. And there's always some place that you can't get to. And it always has to stand on people because they want your money.
Why the clowns?
Okay, the clown. In the clown car, here, this one about the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest ones that can fool you are clowns because you always think they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
They always hide behind a disguise.
Yeah.
And some clowns are very tragic, even though they dress up real funny. And politicians to me are clowns. Because they'll tell you anything and do anything for you to cheer them on.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because you then have, because like the gladiator one you have, and the other thing that's interesting too is the spectators are painted the same.
The spectators, well, they're
similarly.
The red ones are who?
Well, I'd say Republicans.
Right. The blue ones are the Democrats.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also interesting because in the gladiatorial painting that you have, they have similar faces, like the long oblong or the long noses coming to a point.
When Pinocchio lies, his nose goes.
Ah, okay, all right. There it is.
So they're a bunch of Pinocchio liars.
Mm-hmm.
So they got long noses.
Interesting. Okay.
They're kind of creepy looking too.
What about that clown? Because that seems different.
This one?
Yeah.
Well, this one is going fishing.
Okay.
So they're fishing for people's money.
Okay.
So what you have is the name Lammeojo in Spanish means the eye liquor, which means a kiss asser. So they're throwing all the kiss assers in the box, taking their money.
I like that it's eye liquor.
Yeah, that's what it's called, yeah. That's what it's called, an old saying. And what they're doing is catching them and shaking them till the money falls into the bags, and then they throw them back in the water. And then you see you got the pistol, the little elephant, slingshots, all kind of little knickknacks on them.
Yeah.
And the one with the gladiatorial ones, well, if you look at that closely, is what they do. Made in India, made in Korea, made in Pakistan, made in China, made in Mexico. All the goods come from there, not from here anymore.
Yeah.
Then you have them fighting each other. And how are you going to hurt somebody in an armor suit with a cat? You're not. It's a joke. And then in the background is all the cities in poverty and falling down and falling apart. And they have so much money that it's pouring out of them sometimes. And then the leader, who we say is sitting on the throne, which was an old saying in insult that you're sitting on the throne, you're sitting on the shit, right?
Yeah.
So he's a shithead. And he's got flies and walk around.
Where did you say the cities behind it? They're like right now.
Look,
Yeah.
the collage that in. Like, see the little poverty, little kids playing in the streets. So we used to do. Falling down buildings. Well, everything else was being made in another country. Instead of it being done here. You know they can't move around, they're stuck in the dirt.
Well, the other thing too is you can see like they're like how they're like obviously rich, but they're also like collapsing.
Yeah.
Like, this is it's got a giant hole in it. This is a crack.
Exactly.
And they're
so
just
much,
like losing money, but they don't care.
They don't care.
Doesn't matter.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Even the shit ain't even looking at it.
Well, it can't.
That's the one when you go to vote, they want your vote, right? So who are you going to pick?
Clowns.
They both, it's like voting for the least evil one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Then you have the Titan, you have a little saying here, which is Casa de los Anacos, which is the house of the crazy ones. The White House.
Oh yeah.
With a Pinocchio nose.
The interesting thing is that the spectators in that one are different than the rest of them.
Right. Well, you have speak no evil, hear no evil, see no evil. Then you have me going like, look the hell. So, and it's like a police lineup. Where they put you up the board and they got the height.
Yeah.
And stuff like those is somebody supposed to be of importance, but they're not. And even that is put in there with nails, so it can be removed.
Yeah.
And then they have Taíno writing calling them two-faced, evil soul, all holding on to money bags, flags upside down, distressed country. They don't care. And you got the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
I was inspired by what was that guy's name? Bruegel. We did the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
So I said, why not put them there? The leader of the one's a religious one. That little fish hook. His little tea thing for pouring libations. Followed by a religious zealot, Republican. The ones that hide like this are usually the ones with the money. The lawyers and people like that. So I give them 3 screaming buttons. Because back in the day, the 3 golden things were usually put in pawn shops. Of course, a fat rat, followed by a clown, and a pumpkin head is a stupid person.
I figured it was like a Wizard of Oz thing, but that's cool.
No, it goes way back to the Romans.
Okay.
If they called you a pumpkin head, that means you had nothing inside you. You're just a hollow shell. But when you thump it, it's empty. So you're a pumpkin head. Falling off.
So, what is your like process for when you're going to start like a new painting? Like, what do you start doing? All that kind of stuff.
I try to think of a theme that I want to put into the painting or a message I'm trying to get across, and then I have to go look for certain symbols that I want to add. So I'd make it graphic, but not too graphic, and make it funny or sarcastic, and try to disguise it in a sense. Because if you make it too blatant, people get too offended. If you make it too silly, well, then it's silly. But if you make it to the point where the symbolism and the image, or part of it, strikes you, then I think it works. So if somebody walks up to one of my paintings and they say, well, I can feel this or I see that, then it works. And that process of looking for symbols is pretty intense for me. I have all kind of books on some history of symbols for every culture and what it meant, what the colors mean, the shapes and forms, all that gets put in. It's like the clown one. It's almost like an oval egg. And it's broken.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that is like a lot of deep symbology.
There's a lot of symbolism in it because what it does, it man himself, way back, prehistoric times, had to use symbols and images to describe what was going on. Not so much language. The written language was totally unique and different in every culture, but a symbol was always the same. An egg was always an egg. A hammer was always a hammer. A sword was always a sword. A brick was a brick. And to incorporate that, to make it that you feel it, that's the trick. And people say, well, you're a surrealist. I don't know. Or you're a cubist. I don't know. I mean, I studied all those people, but that's just a label people put on things. And then they say, well, you should paint something of your heritage. That is my heritage. I went through strife, all the stuff I went through, that's my heritage. Well, it doesn't look Spanish enough. I said, well, you ever been to Spanish Harlem? We got those kind of buildings there. We got bodegas, we got all that stuff. Even in that one, I got the collage Malta, India, and stuff like that in the paintings. The places where I used to live. All the way up on the top, there's a little picture of me as a kid in one of the windows, collaged.
Well, the other thing is it kind of ignores, like whenever anybody says that, it ignores the fact that, like, I mean, Spanish culture is where Spanish people live. So if you grew up in New York, then like, what are you supposed to draw?
But that was the biggest
An
problem.
imagined Puerto Rico? Like what? Yeah.
That was the biggest problem that I had because I had a friend walk up to me and say, you should paint things of your heritage. And I said, like what, Francis? He said, well, you're Puerto Rican. I said, yeah. Well, then you paint coffee cups and people live on the mountains, the jibaros and stuff from the island. I said, I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a New Yorican. I said, I'm Puerto Rican. No, you're a New Yorican. You live here. I said, so what are you doing here? You're Puerto Rican. Go back to Puerto Rico. Oh, no, I can go anywhere I want. Duh. I can paint whatever I want.
Well, that's like saying if you grew up in San Juan that you have to paint people living in the mountains. It's like, but I lived in the biggest city on the island. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
yeah.
Draw pastures and prairies? Like, I've never been
That's the funniest thing. Yeah, it's the funniest thing because people tell me, well, can you paint portraits? Yeah. Can you do dogs? Yeah, I've done them. Can you do still life? I did plenty of them. Why do you paint that? I said, I love that. And anybody can do a portrait. That's just practice. People say,
that's very optimistic.
No, I'm serious.
You've never seen
I'm
me draw
serious.
before. That's
I'm
real
serious.
optimistic. You're saying I could do a portrait.
I'm serious. When I first started, I couldn't do stick figures right. And one of the artists told me, all you gotta do is practice. Continue at it. He says, can you ride a bike as soon as you saw one? I said, no. How'd you get to be so good? I had to keep riding. If you have a passion for it, you excel in it. If you don't, well, you excel in something else. It's that simple. Then they said, well, how you learn the techniques? Trial and error. I had a guy tell me, well, how'd you get that collage there and paint oil on it? Techniques. You learn. It's a craft. It's all a craft. Once you learn the craft, then it's easy to do. You can't paint certain colors on top of other colors because of the crack. You can't do this or that, this or that. You learn that through trial and error. I'm still learning. I mean, look, there's a portrait of me over there looking out sideways.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
See, but you don't notice it because of all the rest of the stuff happening.
Yeah. That's really cool though.
So what does that mean?
This one is called cara de, which is the face of. And the face of the artist is what is it that takes you to being an artist and what do you do? So the things that helped me, I used to have my pipe, I'd have my port of wine, my sketchbook, my drawing table, my symbols from my history all around me, and then I had the canvas itself. Now the canvas, to me, is always like a window to the soul. So it's always an opening, an entrance, and I'm always looking into it or looking at it to find something to put in it. So I put myself in there looking for something. Pretty simple. And all of those symbols there, those are Taíno symbols on the islands in Puerto Rico and the rest of the places in Haiti. They symbolize frogs. They symbolize images of the sun and eternity, the frog, all that stuff is there.
Why the frog? You also have frog here. You have many
It's
frogs.
good luck.
Frog?
If you don't have frogs growing,
That's true.
you don't have good nature.
Yeah.
You don't. You lose the frogs in the forest is dead.
That's interesting. That's true.
Once the frogs are dead, the Amazon is dead. That's food. That shows you that there's healthy water, healthy swamp, healthy vegetation, algae, all that stuff lives, and they thrive on it because they absorb it through their skin.
But
And bugs.
And bugs,
And
everything.
bugs. Which is
but like in Puerto Rico,
El
is
coqui,
frog
the
considered?
coqui sings to you from the plantation.
Yeah, that's
If your
true.
plantation is sick, you don't got any frogs.
But is it considered luck? Or it's just like your interpretation? Or people share that?
People share that.
Okay.
They love the sound of the coqui because you know what it represents.
So you talked a lot about like Taíno things. I know you mentioned that there was like some Taíno words in
Right.
some of your paintings. Did you like grow up learning Taíno?
No.
Or did you do that later in life?
I did that when I got here.
Oh.
When I got here, I was doing paintings And somebody said, why don't you do your heritage? And I said, well, okay, heritage, why are you doing a coffee cup? Why don't you learn about the Taíno Indians? And I started looking online for the heritage and Taíno words, and I found a dictionary of all the meanings and sayings and the representations of figures. And I said, well, there's my heritage. I'll put it in my paintings. People still don't recognize it. But the ones who really, really know the heritage, they see it automatically. So now I put them just about everywhere.
Also, and I know I didn't ask this earlier, but I'm just curious. When you were growing up, did you speak Spanish at home, or was it like English only?
We spoke both, but in the streets, there weren't that many Hispanic people in my neighborhood. And when you went to school, you better know English.
Yeah.
If you spoke Spanglish, well, then you were in trouble. And if you went to certain neighborhoods and you weren't fluent, you were going to get your butt whooped. So you learned English very well. And when you went to Spanish neighborhoods, well, you spoke Spanish. But I don't practice it as much as I should.
It's hard. I mean,
But it's not really hard. It's just
no, I mean it's hard to find people to talk to. I
yeah.
think
But I'm
sometimes.
just so used to English now.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call it? You assimilate?
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a question. So when I was like looking for information about you, your art, like online, there's several websites. I cannot even call them like for artists, and usually it's like a little metric like the name, occupation, whatever. And in few places I've seen that you describe yourself as a self-taught artist.
Yes.
But you did go to college and you did have art classes, so...
The self-taught comes from, a lot of people go to college, art college, where they study a slew of courses in order to get your graduation and become an artist. When I was in college, I took whatever I wanted to because I didn't know what I was going to do. And the teachers who were teaching me, they weren't really professors. They were starving artists. Took a job at the college just to make ends meet. And the way they taught me was just do it. And I said, well, I can't draw. And they would say, practice. They wouldn't show you technique, none of that stuff. I said, you want to paint? Paint. I had a teacher that would come up to me and other students, and I had no clue of how to paint in oil or anything. But I knew how to put the image that I wanted down. So he would look at it and say, that's perfect. And I'm saying, what the hell, this is junk. And then he goes next to a young lady who's perfect. He would take turpentine and wipe it off. And she'd cry hysterically because it was so perfect. It was so beautiful. And he says, do what he's doing. And she said, what do you mean? He said, he's just doing. He's not concerned with the beauty of it or how it ends up. He's just doing it. He says, if you're going to be an artist, you do it. And I said, well, I'm not really learning anything. He said, you're learning a lot. You're learning that when you do it and when you finish it, it doesn't belong to you. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. You did it. And so being self-taught, I didn't have the academic learning. My academic learning was, I had comic books, Eerie magazines. You remember Eerie magazines?
Nope.
No? Oh, you're too young. How about the underground magazines in New York City and Soho?
I grew up in Orlando, so
okay.
yeah. So
they had back in the day. They had so many underground avenues you can go to see different kind of art. All these guys who were doing comic book art, Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four and all these people, they did underground work too.
Oh, that's cool.
And I would go and study those. And most of those were just black and white. And for me to learn how to do those figures, I put tracing paper over it. That's being self-taught.
I think that was somebody else we interviewed from the group. Was it Alejandro?
I don't know.
I think it was Alejandro. Said the same thing. He first started doing like tracings or
Yes,
something of,
yes.
of
Yeah.
comic books,
Yeah, yeah.
and that was like a thing. He liked comic books, and it was
Yeah.
just. Well, and the other thing too is you think about it's art around you that you can, like you put tracing paper over. I mean, like stuff from the library or something like that. You get a little bit sketchier about like trying to damage other people's stuff.
Well,
But
you know,
like,
they used to teach us Here's one thing an artist taught me. Sharpening a pencil like that.
Interesting.
Don't use a pencil sharpener. And I said, why can't I use a pencil sharpener? He says, if you do it like this, it teaches you so much control not to snap that pencil.
Huh.
That you don't damage the paper, you don't dig in too deep because the pencil will break. So my points are always like this. That's being self-taught. Because an artist knew that. I didn't know that.
That's kind of mind-boggling. I'm actually really upset I've never heard that before. I'm 32. I've never heard that before my entire life.
When you paint, when you do a painting, do you stand up close to look at it or do you stand far away?
When you look at it, or when
Yeah,
you make
when you look at it.
farther.
Farther, right? It makes sense because you can see everything. When you get up close, you see all the errors and mistakes. All the pieces that weren't painted in.
I really like getting up close though, because the thing that I really just like started noticing lately is like the brush strokes and stuff.
That's
yeah,
exactly
That's the thing that I really like.
When you get up close, the reason to get the light and certain things to work is the brush stroke.
Yeah.
Now, in order to do that as an artist, you can't get up close to do it because you want to be able to go back here and see it. So what this artist taught me, you get bamboo sticks, like this long. You put the paintbrush in it. Now it's 3 feet away.
Huh. Interesting.
So you're painting it as a person would view it. And then when you get to the details, well, then you get up close to put in the little final touch and details.
Interesting.
I got a whole bunch of sticks back there. Yeah.
Do you have your studio here?
Hey,
Yeah.
you can take a look if you can fit in there. You want to take a
I
look?
would. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if the camera will be in there because it's like,
No, what I think we'll just bring the camera. We'll just
the camera.
unplug it and that'll be fine.
well, like one person at a time could fit in there.
You know how to take it off?
Because I picture frames, I got stuff
But you
everywhere.
paused the
Yeah, I paused that. We'll
Okay.
just use the camera.
camera. Okay.
Oh, no, don't.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know how to take it off. Yeah, I thought that.
That goes up here.
Oh, that's beautiful. Good. Hey, my doggy, my doggy.
It's supposed to go up
Yeah,
here.
that's really good. You're good. Kind of abstracted. No,
Was it
it's
live,
good.
Thomas?
It's good.
Yes. It's okay, it has an internal mic, but
That's really good.
yeah.
Very talented.
Yeah. There we go.
You sure?
You got it?
Yeah, yeah.
Same problem, right?
Just
The space,
unplug.
do I really want to do that? No.
Yeah. I know the feeling. That's why I have them all here.
You go.
So I definitely identified when we were talking
Oh,
about
we can only fit one at a time, so you
Okay.
go
Well,
first.
it should be.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's kind of crowded.
Okay.
So I got them on the walls too. And then I have all my picture frames in this neighborhood. What I love about St. Cloud is everybody throws away pictures and picture frames, so I don't have to buy them.
Yeah, these are. I mean, it's great the like variety you get too. You
See,
know?
a religious one they won't show.
Oh, really?
It's called Ay Dios, like where's God?
Hmm.
So where do you worship? And these guys are all in front of a big eyeball, just like a TV set, staring back at you.
Hmm.
And they're sitting there with their mouths going,
Huh. And you can't get anywhere that it'll display it?
not yet.
Okay.
Back here is the crazy house. Now my easel's outside, so it's usually put right here. You see how crazy it is? My doggy sleeps there when I'm painting.
Gotta
Nope.
have him with you.
And all the paintings as they dry, I put them up on the, stack them up
Oh,
there.
that makes sense.
So there's a whole bunch of them there.
Oh, wow.
They're like 4 or 5, 6 deep.
Is that supposed to be a self-portrait?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's another series of carade.
Yeah, you do a lot of series.
Yeah,
Seems like
what I learned when I was working in a gallery, doing the framing and stuff and preparing paintings, was that the gallery owner likes a series.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're doing a building, they want a whole series of buildings to see the progression of it and where it leads and how it started and where it goes.
Yeah, it seems almost like counterintuitive. I'd think that they would want like individual pieces, because then you could try and like sell them like that.
If you're going to sell an artist, they want a body of work. They don't want
That's
one
interesting.
piece.
That's interesting.
Because if you go into a gallery and you show like 15 different type of things, they're going to go and say, do you have a series that I can show?
That's interesting. It doesn't, I just like thinking about it, like intuitively, I would have thought it would have been different, but that makes sense.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it's true. It's just like, just thinking about it, not having, any experience with
Watch out. See 10,000 frames, because everybody in St. Cloud throws away the frames. And these are the canvases that I set up so I can get ready to do some more work. And as they dry, like I said, I put them up there and more up there. Somebody threw away a cuckoo clock, so I'm gonna make a sculpture out of that.
I got your turn a little bit and straight back. Okay, there you go.
And back here is like 20 or 30 more paintings in boxes.
Oh, wow. So do you have like a schedule for like the week? I mean, do you have like a framing day and a painting day and stuff like that?
No.
Okay. Just whatever you feel like doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm retired. I have
That's
no
true.
schedule.
That's true.
I do whatever I want, when I want. The only schedule I have is to make sure I eat and sleep.
Okay.
And just for the record, there is a painting that we were talking about, and I didn't show it, so now here it is. Yeah, the portrait that was described earlier. Okay.
All right.
Hook it back up.
Yeah.
Now I have like maybe thousands of drawings, but they're in boxes.
Oh, okay.
I have them all the way from when I was in college till now. Because for my senior project in college was to, they would give you a gallery space, supposedly it looked like a gallery, and you'd create a body of work to hang it up and to explain it to professors in order to get your final grade. And depending on how well you put it together and the meaning of it, you pass.
Wow.
So I walk in there and I was doing a collage at the time, and my collage was burnt fabric, or burnt canvas, burnt fabric, painted, and glued onto a canvas. So they weighed a ton, but there were a whole bunch of them. And I did drawings for it, studies of bones, to do the collage and the shapes and the movement and everything. And I put them all up in the space they gave me. I walk in there, and the professors are sitting way in a little corner, drinking coffee and carrying on and having fun. And I'm saying, gee whiz, aren't they supposed to be looking at my stuff and tell me something? So I sit there and just wait and getting all nervous, and maybe I didn't pass. I walk over to my professor and I say, well, what the hell? Nobody's talking to me. So he looks at me and he says, go cut up an ear.
Why?
I passed. Go cut up an ear. That's what Van Gogh did. He became famous, cut off an ear. He said, you got to go out and sacrifice now. You got to sacrifice yourself for the stuff you do. And I didn't get that. I sat there and said, what a jerk. What's he telling me? But that's what he was telling me. You got to go sacrifice. I had a teacher, we were doing ceramics, not ceramic, but clay. And we were doing figures. And at the end of his class, you walk into this room, in the ceramic room, and there's a big target painted on the back wall with all kind of splotches. And you walk in and he says, is this your work? I said, yeah. He says, and smacks it across the room right into the target area. And if you reacted and screamed and hollered that he destroyed your piece of art, then you failed. When he did it to mine, I said, okay, I'll do another. He says, once you surrender your work of art to the world, it no longer belongs to you. You move on. If you're afraid of losing it or it being destroyed, then you're not going to create anymore. You'll be stuck in one place. It says, no work is ever finished. No work is ever complete. If you get that philosophy in your head, you become good. If you figure I can only do this and on this only, then you'll never succeed. Then I had a teacher that he said, bring in your paintings. He puts them on the floor. Takes off his shoes and socks, dips his feet in paint, and walks all over your painting. People were hysterical. I died laughing. He said, you pass. People were taking the art so serious and to mean so much, to become part of them, that they forgot what they were doing. Because when you create something, it's not just for you, it's for everybody. Once you put it out there, it belongs to everybody. The only thing that can belong to you is your food, basically, because you ingest it. But even still, it comes out. You got to get that philosophy in your head that you keep creating and you keep destroying.
That's some like Buddha stuff right there.
Picasso said that too.
Yeah.
You learn being a child, you grow up, and go back to being a child. Because once you get stuck in the middle, you don't learn anything anymore. You're stuck. You become a portrait painter, that's all you are, a portrait painter. I had people look at me and say, how did you get that color? You play with it. I had a professor walk up to me and said, how'd you get that black? I can't find that black. I said, you're a professor? He said, that's not black, that's ultramarine blue with some burnt sienna and this and this and that. That's how you play with it. It's like cooking. Everybody can cook a damn fried chicken, but not everybody tastes good. And once you cook it, it's gone. You do it again. That's being self-taught. Because everybody's throwing something at you and you're picking. But you can't let it bounce off of you. You got to absorb it. If it's good, you keep it. And if it's bad, you really hold on to it. When somebody tells me that sucks and I don't understand it and that was done wrong, I'm going to keep it because I'm going to find out why. And if they really, really love it, okay, I got to make it so they hate it too. It's all part of it. You love and hate. And when you create, you destroy what you had before. It was a blank canvas, pure, perfect, beautiful white. You scumble into it, you scratch it up, you this and that. Now it's a painting. Now you gotta add this to it, add that to it, and if you do it wrong, it falls apart. If you do it right, maybe it'll work. And you add the wrong color, now you gotta scrape it all off again, so you create and destroy constantly. Until you get to the point where you say, that's it, I walk away. Me, none of my paintings are finished. Every time I go up to the painting, I say, damn, I should have put this in it. What if I added that? Maybe I should put a little more of that. But then what I do, well, okay, I did that one, I'll do something similar. And try to put that in. That didn't work, okay, I'll try it again. Now I got about 15 of the same damn thing. And out of the 15, maybe one or two be perfect, or almost perfect. It's crazy.
So if all work is never finished,
Not to me.
How do you know that you're done with it?
You don't. But what happens is you get to the point where I'm in front of the painting. I've done everything I thought it needed. And I walk away and I go, that looks pretty good. What if I add this to it? And then I say to myself, take the painting, put it in another room, or turn it over and start something else, and then come back to it in a couple of days. See if you still feel the same way. And by that time, I said, that's it. Let me try it again, but a different way. So to me, they're never finished. That one, I was working on one of them, I don't know where it is, for almost 5-6 years. And it's still not finished. So I rolled it up and put it in a tube. And I've had that one since 92. I still have it. And I still want to finish it. But I rolled it up and put it in a tube. And it's the size of the wall almost. And every time I look at it, I say, damn, I should do this, I should add that. And then if I do that, it won't be the same thing as when I stopped. And somehow or other, when you're doing it, it's like when you're cooking, you know you're finished. And if you keep going, it's going to burn, it's going to stink. You put too much sauce, too much seasoning, it's not going to be good. Once you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'll walk away. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. That's why I have too many of them.
So we talked about it a little bit with like some of the places that you've exhibited, but how has the art scene changed in Central Florida over the time you've lived here?
A lot of the art, there's no galleries. The galleries are thrift stores with a wall. You put your stuff up in a thrift store. You can put your stuff up in a frame shop. You can display it in a coffee shop. Maybe you get it into a city hall, or you join one of these little communes they got. They have one downtown Kissimmee, the old town. They love my work, but they wanted me to pay to have my stuff on display. I said, why am I paying you rent to show my work? Well, all the artists do that. I said, well, then what do you do in return? Do you get a commission? Yes. I said, well, why am I paying you rent and commission? What are you doing to promote my work? It's being seen. Being seen amongst 10,000 other paintings. That's not how you show art. That's not how you show an artist. So all they're doing is like a business. And down in South Florida, they're doing the same thing now. One guy loved my work. He's a gallery director. He wanted to charge me by the inch. If it was what was it? $10 an inch. So it was
$10 an inch.
An inch, or was it a foot? $10 a foot. So if it's
Still not much better.
yeah, but if it's a foot, that one's 2 feet by 3 feet, times 4 to put on his wall.
Does he sell it immediately?
And I said, thank you very much, but no thank you. I showed here in downtown, I won't mention the name, and they said, okay, we're going to put it in the newspaper. I said, great, I'll get a write-up. The opening comes, the show's open, I open the newspaper, it's not there. I said, why is it not in the local newspaper? You said you're going to put it there. Oh, I was a little bit late. I said, okay, well, when are you going to put it in there? We'll put it in next week, for sure. Don't worry. When I'm taking down the show, it was in the paper. So you think I'm going to show there again? No. They don't, there's not an appreciation. And the problem with Florida is because it's Mickey Mouse land. This is a place you come to the beach. You go to the Wonderland and spend hundreds of dollars getting on a silly ride for 5 seconds. Wait online for 3 hours to go. Charge you so much for a beer, $6. You can get $6, you get a 6-pack out here. But it's not made for art. It's made for tourism. And when people come here from another country or another state, they're not coming to buy a work of art per se. They're coming to buy a memento. So if you tell them $1,500, I can get a postcard less. Okay, buy a postcard. It's not something, I keep telling people, art is not something that you need. It's something that you want. If you love it, I don't care, I'm going to get it. It's not like a car, you need 4 wheels, you got to drive. It's a necessity. It's not a necessity. It's hard to sell art. Won't stop me from doing it though. Yeah, I talked your ear off, huh?
No, good. Just looking over, just making sure I didn't forget anything. So with the Puerto Rican arts group, have you ever been involved in any other like arts collectives groups
No.
over the years? This is the first time.
I tried joining one when I first got down here, and they were going to have shows, a traveling show throughout the country. And they sent me a contract, because I don't do shows unless you give me a contract. Give me a contract, and let's get it all down legal, because that's the way it's supposed to work. They sent me a contract, and the dates on it was wrong. Instead of sending it to the gallery, I was sending it to somebody's house. And I said, well, all this is wrong, I'm not doing it. So they said, oh, we can't deal with you no more. I said, fine. Sending my painting to some person I don't know instead of the gallery, and they're going to say they never got the painting.
Or also, I mean, like if that guy's house burns down, there's no insurance on it either.
Only if I put insurance on it.
Yeah. With the gallery, I mean, you're transferring.
Right.
They are
yeah.
They're supposed to maintain.
While it's
insurance.
on their premises, they take care of it. Once it leaves, it's on you.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until I started working at a museum. Like the massive problem of like insurance, like who is responsible if something happens to this?
I used to work in museums. I know about that.
Yeah. What would you do in like art museums?
Yeah, I worked in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I worked in the book section. I worked in the armory section. And then I worked in a lot of galleries repairing the paintings. Because when a painting comes, these idiots, when they send their paintings to a gallery, a subpar gallery, they send them rolled up instead of framed in box because it's cheaper. So they can take a whole bunch of paintings and roll them up. And if it's not dried properly, because an oil painting would take anywhere from 8 months to a year to dry properly and safely. Sometimes they send it in and the paint comes off. So my job was to match the colors, fix it up, and then stretch it and put it in a frame. And when I told them I can do that, I showed them I can do it, they said, oh, but we love you. And I said, how much? I said, okay, bye. You're not paying me no $5 an hour. No, I don't think so. It's a craft, though. You have to know the craft, how to build stuff. I was doing my own frames at one time. I worked for Michael's, and I did the art section there. I did the framing and everything. People don't know how to do frames. They ship the frame. They ship it out to China, and it comes back in pieces, and you assemble it. It's not like you used to do before. You actually build it. It's a craft. It's a lot of work.
Sounds like it.
But I tell you, when you're doing artwork or you're doing a craft, you become so immersed in it, everything around you forget about it. It's like being in the garden. You're out there planting and playing with you like with God. Nothing else matters. Forget about time, forget about everything. And it's a good catharsis because it's physical and it's emotional and it's mental, because an art, I tell everybody, is 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. It's a lot of work. People think, oh, because my 10-year-old could do that. I said, well, go ahead and do that one. Go ahead. Sure.
Every 10-year-old do it then. Tom, you got any questions or anything you want to ask?
No, I'm hearing a lot of what goes through my head. The way you're saying it, I appreciate it. Same education in New York City. Is there any one instructor that really stuck out while you were in the early training stages?
I had
Somebody that really influenced you early on.
I had an instructor for abstract art. I forget his name, but he would look at my work, and it wasn't so much the image that he saw, it was what was around the image, the shadows, the shapes that were created from the actual image, that he learned me to see negative space more than positive space. And I asked him one day, well, I'd like to see your work. And he said, well, promise you won't laugh. Because he was teaching us stuff like this. I go to his studio and it's completely abstract. And just shapes and forms. But when you look at it, you see all the labor-intensive work that he did to get that one little shape, little triangle or square to fit perfectly. And then you see all the scumbling and all the scratches and all the mistakes all the way around it. But when you look at it, it's perfect. And I learned from him that it didn't matter. As long as you get it on the paper or the canvas and you put everything you got into it, the result, whether they like it or not, you did it. And don't stop. If they don't like it, too bad. You love it. Do another.
What about, so you're probably a little bit older than me, but
How old are you?
I'm 55.
Jeez, got you by 11 years.
A little bit then, yeah. So, was there any frustration in the education because it was more abstract? Because you're representational, you're communicating the obvious message, but most, through that period, it became more and more abstract, the education.
When I took classes, I made sure I took everything. The representational, the classical, the abstract, the surrealistic, everything. And since I had the museums in New York, those were the best teachers. And all the crazy galleries in Soho, when it was a place like that, now the rich people live there, there was artists everywhere welcoming you to come in and talk about it or look at it. And when you see all the stuff that they've done, from the scribbles and the scrabbles to complete abstract or complete representation, it was the process that intrigued me the most. And that you can do whatever you want, and you can copy the masters and add them in or subtract them. And just keep changing and then keep evolving. Because when people look at my work, they say, oh, that looks like a Dali, that looks like a Picasso, that looks like... Well, all of them are in it. That was my teachers. And my professor taught me to go look at other stuff, copy it, use it, destroy it, and do your own. But always use your past, your history. Once you do that, you'll never get lost. So everybody that I study, because I got all the books that are people, Picasso, Bruegel, even paper crafts, paper mache, Marcel Duchamp, everybody. Because in there somewhere there's a spark. And somewhere in there is going to be something that I can use. And the hardest thing is to get the message there. Because you say, oh, that's like a toilet bowl, but what are you trying to say? Do you want to insult them? You want to smack them in the face or whatever, you know?
Yeah, Duchamp's the first one that made the toilet
or the stupid
icon above,
yeah,
right?
or the stupid bicycle wheel on a stool.
Yeah.
Or the nude descending a staircase, right? It's about motion. And then they got me collecting weird things. I had a habit of collecting the strangest little boxes and little knickknacks, and I would always think, how can I use that in a painting? Where can I include that? Because that, to me, would be something that I have personally, and I can put it in there, so now it's really mine, because it's in there.
Yes, you have a few pieces that are almost totally sculptural. Are you going in that direction more so these days, or
no?
It only occasionally makes its way into a two-dimensional.
It depends. It depends on the series that I'm working on. I have a series of coffee grinders. So I go from representational to abstract to surrealist, everything in between, using a coffee grinder and putting a message in it. Like because you put the coffee beans in it, you grind it up, you change it what it is, but it's still coffee. So how do you do that with people? So I put people in it, I put my heritage in it, I put stuff that I lived through. And it's still a grind, but you still come out the same. Maybe better, maybe tasting worse, but... So I try to figure out how to do that. So I have a whole series of coffee grinders. Then I say, okay, church. What does the church represent to me? What did they do?
How long do you work on a series? Like, do you tend to decide, I'm going to work on a series that's going to have the same flavor throughout as you work on it, or does it last a year, several years, and then you're on to the next thing?
It's forever. It's
you
forever.
can always go back to it.
Yeah, because it's like politicians. throughout all history, they pissed me off. So I have ammunition to paint them all the time. Religion never changes. It's still somebody, in my words, that's trying to make you believe something. And the strength in their religion is to strengthen your belief in it. But there's no reality to it. It's a belief. And then they have all these little symbols and all these little things that try to pull you in. And the bottom line is, give alms to the church. The guy has a mansion, he has a yacht, he has a Boeing 747. I'm sitting out here suffering, waiting to try to get into heaven, giving him money. So that's ammunition forever. Now, the ones that I do, that are on a limited basis, is when I do stuff about people that I know. Like friends, family, enemies. I'll do a series of maybe 3 or 4, and that's it. Because I get it out my system.
So that's the catharsis.
That's the catharsis.
That's short term.
The short term one.
Put it
yeah.
away.
Get it out. I did one of a gallery director. It's in the shape of a coffee grinder also, but it's how they use you and throw you on the wayside. So I did that one for him. Then I did another one was called Cafe on A Street, which was a gallery on A Street, and how he played a shell game with everybody, talking about how he's going to do this and do that for you, and didn't do anything except for himself. So I did a painting of that. He loved it. He wanted it because his face was in it. I said, you see, it works. But I got it out. The problem comes up but when you do something that's of social significance, like if you do a war painting or something really deep like that, like the abuse of children by the church, then people don't want to see that. So you have to do like we learned in the military. You got to camouflage it a little. I mean, I can make spaghetti 10,000 ways. It's still spaghetti. So when that church went over there, I put what? A little teddy bear. So they enticed the little kids with toys.
Sweeten the deal. Sweeten
the deal, yeah. I have a couple of drawings that I was going to do, but I said, it's not going to work as a painting because it's a little too graphic, you know. Those, they'll go to private collectors who collect that kind of stuff.
And you said you can't show that here. Have you ever been to a city where they accept that kind of work that you're putting in?
California.
More political.
California. California loves craziness.
Yeah. Okay.
I showed in a museum there, the Latino Art Museum in Pomona. And I put some really crazy stuff in there. And they loved it. No problem. They want me to ship more stuff over there now. I said, but it costs too much for me to ship it. So if I had a van, I'd be over there showing right now because they accept it. Now, certain areas, well, they're not going to have it, no. So that's when I disguise it. Like the three sorcerers up there. They say, well, they love the painting. What's it about? Because they couldn't figure it out. Well, you got the religious guy with a tea kettle on his head. You got a military man on crutches. And you got one who gets the money, the lawyer or the liar, on crutches. And in the background is all these little buildings that are just in the shadow, but on the antennas is written certain things. On one side it says, "We's closed," which means there's no exit from this kind of life. And then you have the little symbolism of the book that's locked so you can't read it, next to the religious man. And you have the candle, which usually shows illumination, enlightenment, but it's not lit. And it has a face on it. Then you have the clock. The number 11 in the history of symbolism is a very bad number because it represents one less than the disciples at the church at the table. It was 12. 11 is a bad number, so I put the 11 there. Then the game of chance, which is dice. Salt, in case you knock it over, you got to throw it over your shoulder for good luck. And of course you got money next to the lawyer. Got coins. And you got to have the military man because That's where all the power lies for these people. You go to war, they go like this. They give you blessings. You come back, they don't give you shit when you're crippled. They give you a little thing to wear here. And he's got 3 little faces screaming coming out of him, little golden globes. That's the pawn shop symbolism that they used to use in pawn shops. That comes from the Medici legacy in Italy. They started that, taking loans to get money. Yes, a lot of craziness.
So it seems like you use like military symbolism a lot in your work too.
Some of them. I put these up here because we're going through right now. This time is with Trump in office. You got a lot of deceit. You got a lot of politicians doing all kind of bad things. They're using the military in a very wrong way. Even the guys who are commanders and commanders-in-chief in the military quit. And then they talk about he's trying to start a damn war. And of course they're going to use the military, and then when the military comes back, they don't help you.
Yeah.
I mean, I served in the military, and these people don't give me the benefits I should get. I have to get Medicare and Medicaid to supplement it. But I served my country. I could have been dead any minute. But they'll give you a bunch of pills. 10,000 pills.
Well, it's also, I mean, like, you know, you got a lot of vets dying on like waiting lists at the VA.
That's because you know who the doctors are? The civilian doctors. They got jobs elsewhere. They get benefits. They get paid double. A lot of people who went in the military as doctors went in just to get the rank and experience, not to do professional work. Because I had my wrist in a cast because a lieutenant said that I broke my wrist when the x-ray technician who's been doing it for many years looked at it and said, there's nothing there. There's no fracture, nothing. You just sprained it. But because the lieutenant had rank, said, it's broken, put it in a cast. When they took the cast off, he said, see, it's fine. I said, well, where's the hairline fracture you were talking about? Because it's a bone, it doesn't seal itself up. There'll be a line. They couldn't find it. So I wore a cast for nothing, because he says so. And you know how you find enemy? The lowest ranked man, you set him at point. He gets shot, the enemy's over there. He gets blown up, this mine's over there. That's crazy.
Tom, do you have any other questions?
No, no.
Okay. So I got 2 kind of concluding questions. So we talked a lot about like art that's sitting around here. Are there any memorable pieces that you'd like to talk about that aren't necessarily displayed, or like a story you have related to them that you'd like to share?
Oh, quite a bit. One that I have in the back room that I don't show, there's 2 of them actually, and it's one is called Victoria resting at the piano. And Victoria, I was with her for 40 some odd years, and she's the one that died of cancer. So I put her resting at the piano because she loved music, and she loved Aretha Franklin. So I got all the songs written by hand that she loved on the piano in the shadows. And her, well, you can come look at it.
Oh, okay.
Take a quick look. If I can bring it out here.
No, it's okay. We can follow you.
Get it on camera.
Yeah, if you can bring it out, that'd be.
Yeah, get it on camera.
Yeah.
No, wait.
Oh, okay.
Where am I going to put it?
Maybe in
We put-
front of.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It really is.
There's Victoria resting by the piano. And these are the places where we lived. Kansas, Texas, California, Hawaii, Maryland, Alabama, Florida. And then we close because there's no exit. And that's me and her with the little son, and a hole in my chest with a broken heart. Her best friend, Felda, is right there. And that's her smiling, talking on the phone. And all these are the songs that she used to love. Spanish Harlem, Daydream, all that stuff. And that's her with her son.
So did she play or did she just enjoy?
She wrote music, sang music, played the piano. I still have her keyboard in the back room in the closet. She was getting ready to start recording, but then she got sick. And so for 14 years we just fought with the cancer until it just took her.
Wow. It's beautiful.
So I just made her resting. And there's another one, you already got it?
Are you gonna put it back right now? Because I want to take a picture as well.
Take a picture.
So yeah, I wanted to take a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I will take pictures of all.
Yeah, okay.
This is us, the handcuffed lovers. See, me, I used to always look at everything as a joke. So I'm the jester. And she was so strong that we used to always say to her that she's so powerful and emotional she can make a rock cry. So the rock got a tear. And it was always a chance, we never knew. So it was a game of dice. And then she had hope, faith, and love as a necklace. And she's looking at me and I'm looking at her, and I have painted a fake smile because it was very tragic. And then I got little screaming faces. And there's my cane that I can't hold up anymore.
It's interesting too because the cane isn't necessarily attached to you either.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate the cane, but I have to have it.
Yeah.
So my hand is still there. Yes, the hand's still there, but I'm not holding it. And of course, I loved her boobies, so her boobies are there.
I was wondering if there was gonna be another symbolism joke, but that's the best part of it.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's the
it.
best. Yeah. Yeah.
And I put her in the regal purple because it's to me she was regal, and I was always checkered. So
Yeah, and the two of you kind of combine with the colors on the floor.
yeah, and we're stuck together.
Yeah. It's really pretty.
And the other one that I told you is a gigantic one. It's one of these also. It's called the Handcuffed Lovers, and it has me and her walking down a place that's all discombobulated, and my family members on both sides because they didn't approve of it because she was dark and I was light. So I put that in, and I put that in the show, and it took I think it was 3rd place. But it's gigantic. That's the way I keep saying I got to go back and finish. Got to go back. So instead of going back and finish, I took the middle section. I put it here, and I put the family in 2 separate little ones. Very ugly.
I'll grab them. Figured I'd bring this back.
There's gigantic ones in the closet. So I can't get home. So the ones that are like that, I do a very small edition just for me.
that you like just copy from the bigger piece?
No.
Oh.
I have sketchbooks.
Oh, okay, okay.
In my sketchbooks, I have 1,000 sketches of hands, faces,
Yeah.
all of my ideas written down, how I'm going to try to present it. If there's a knife in it or whatever, multiple sketches of how it would look. And instead of making the hand look realistic, I try to make it look like a cartoon or something or other. Or make it in a way that it's more expressive than just a plain hand.
Gotcha.
Huh, Boo? Because anybody can do a hand, huh?
So I got one final question we'd like to ask everybody. So, like I mentioned, we're going to keep this interview in our archive forever. So for somebody that's
I'll be famous.
so for somebody who's listened to this interview in say 10, 20, 50 years, what's a message you'd like for them to know? Could be about Central Florida, could be about art, anything that you think is important.
Puppies.
Yeah.
What would I say? I'd say the sacred cow. Come here.
Somebody got to pee. Is
Yeah.
that what this is? Okay.
I say sacred cows make the best hamburgers.
All right. Is there anything else that you feel like adding? Feel like we didn't talk about enough? Anything else you'd like to say?
No. I'm just glad you guys came over to listen to the madman. Because some people, you talk to them and it makes no sense. And they try to figure out, well, why the hell are you doing it? Or it's just a hobby. And I always tell them, well, everything is a hobby, basically.
Yeah.
And you say, why do you do your job? Because you have to? Or do you love it? This I love.
Yeah.
My jobs I hated.
Yeah. And that's the thing that is really amazing about this project so far. Is everybody is a artist, and then they have just a job that pays the bills.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much everybody does. I mean, Jose did, set design and then teaching.
Yeah.
And Angel has the barbershop. Alejandro was an accountant, for forever. It's just amazing to see these people that have these vibrant body of work.
Carmen's husband.
Carmen Husbands is a doctor. And he still is an artist, sculptor.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see, people that are drawn to do it, even if it's just, it's the thing that they love to do.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to get to hear about.
Yeah, I just work because I need food.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to pay the rent. Uncle Billy always knocking on the door.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I didn't paint, I don't think I'd be much of anything. I wouldn't be happy or angry.
Yeah, you just be.
Yeah, you just 9 to 5, come in, eat, sleep, watch the boob tube. I had that on for noise.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just noise. Okay, let's turn off this stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thank you
much.
for coming.
We'll turn it off.
Yeah, that was